This order paper, I can also see my bill on public holidays is scheduled to be debated. Also, I would want to take this opportunity, maybe we can discuss it after the holidays, because, tomorrow is Good Friday. We have a Saturday and Sunday in between, and again, Monday is a holiday. So I would want Kenyans to take these 4 holidays and see what they can do with it. Then from there, we'll be able to get to know whether my holiday bill is still viable. Mr. Speaker, the issue of conflict of interest, as much as I wouldn't want to say whether I'm in support of this or not support, or probably I'll bring amendments or not, I think in our culture, in our society, in our country, I think conflict of interest is immeasurable, Mr. Speaker. I think we should have come up with a bill that has indicators, that we have to mention them by name, we have to mention them by word, that if you do this, you'll have broken the law, Mr. Speaker. Because if we leave it like that, just everybody needs to declare a conflict of interest on a certain matter, Mr. Speaker. What would you call these examples that I want to give you? Mr. Speaker, when we talk about bias in your work as a public officer, that is conflict of interest. Personal relationship, that is conflict of interest. Self-dealing, that is conflict of interest. Preparation when it comes to treating somebody as a friend, that is that is conflict of interest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this House, we have conducted a few impeachment hearings. I want to give you an example of Meru impeachment, whereby a deputy governor was a witness and he wanted his governor to be impeached. Mr. Speaker, would you call that conflict of interest? Because he was the next beneficiary if that impeachment occurred. He's the person who could have gotten that seat, Mr. Speaker. So does that mean that is conflict of interest, or does that mean he was exercising his mandate to make sure that the county of Meru get rid of the governor as per the allegations that were there then, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, in the Kisii impeachment of the deputy governor that we just did the other day, Mr. Speaker, we saw a father and a son giving their accusation and testimonies on the floor of this House against one another, because one was a friend of the governor, the deputy governor, and the other one was conned by the said person as per the allegations that were there, Mr. Speaker. Would you say that is also conflict of interest? I think this bill, as I said, should come out clearer, Mr. Speaker. If you look at the definitions, what is a private interest? It says it means a personal benefit, privilege, exemption or advantage that a public officer or a person affiliated to a public officer may gain from the office that the public officer holds, and which may influence the judgment of a public officer in the exercise of the public duty, but does not include interest in decision or matter to that of interest, Mr. Speaker. That's what I'm saying. When you talk about conflict of interest, sometimes it is unrealistic if we do not give it proper indicators. The MPs from the National Assembly, they issue bursaries, Mr. Speaker. These bursaries, they go through the NGDF, the CDF, NGCDF, Mr. Speaker. They do that at the expense, they are the MPs, they are the one who are issuing these bursaries, and they are still benefiting from that politically. Mr. Speaker, wouldn't you call that conflict of interest? When it comes to an MP issuing bursary to the people, and he's only doing that within the period that he is an MP, and that means somebody in that ward or that constituency who would want to vie for that seat will be somehow disadvantaged in the future because this MP is issuing bursaries, yet you are not giving anything at that particular time, Mr. Speaker. So I think the bill should be clearer, which I'll be moving some amendment, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at section, I think it is 31A, if I can get there. Section 31A, and if I could read, this section determines what body is responsible, the responsible commission for a public officer for the purposes of this act. So the commission that will be mandated to oversight certain entities, agents, other government officers and government officials. It goes ahead, 31A2, to say, the Committee of the National Assembly, that is a committee of MPs, responsible for the ethics of members, is the responsible commission for, 1, the cabinet, member of the National Assembly themselves, the Director of Public Prosecution, the Secretary to the Cabinet, members of the Judicial Service Commission, members of commission and independent offices specified under Chapter 15 of the Constitution, members of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and staff of the commission holding the rank of Deputy Director and above. I have no problem with that, Mr. Speaker. But if you read 31A3, the Committee of the Senate, now this is the House, Mr. Speaker, responsible for the ethics of members is the responsible commission for senators. Mr. Speaker, if you read that a whole Senate has only been reduced to just oversight themselves. A whole Senate that is mandated to oversight the cabinet secretaries. That's why they appear before the committees of the House. We cannot ask them when it comes to matters conflict of interest. And you know that is where everything begins, Mr. Speaker. I think I will be bringing an amendment, Mr. Speaker. Instead of saying the Committee of the National Assembly, will be saying the Committee of Parliament. So that either House, that is the National Assembly, and the Senate can be, the committee can check on matters conflict of interest to the Cabinet, members of Parliament, and each House will take care of their members, the Director of Public Prosecution, the Secretary to the Cabinet, the members of Judicial Service Commission, members of Commission in the independent offices, and also members of Ethics and Anti-Corruption. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, that this House was only mandated to check themselves? I think this is a clause that would call this whole Senate to first of all pause everything that we are doing and discuss this issue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other day the EACC gave a report, and the report they issued was on the bribery index. And they mentioned some of the counties that bribe as much money. And they talked about Nyamira County, which on average somebody is bribing at 163,000 to get employment. And yet you see on the floor of this House, somebody said that they gave 800,000 to get an opportunity to work for the county of Kisii. And that person was also from Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. What I'm trying to say is that if these bodies that we are giving this mandate, they can give us statistics, they can tell us this county people are bribing, yet they are not doing anything. They're just acting, and I'm talking about EACC, Mr. Speaker, as just an opinion poll, a kind of commission that will just come and tell us this county, the people are known to be bribing, yet they have not arrested anybody, they have not taken anybody to court, they have not even issued warnings if the law permits that, Mr. Speaker. Yet, as a Senate, we are told that we should not call them and ask them questions. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, NTSA was among the government bodies that are accepting huge amount of bribes. They were number 1. Number 2 was judiciary. And number 3 were county government. Mr. Speaker, county government are not in section 31A3. That the Senate, we are taking away our mandate to check the county government when it comes to conflict of interest. And who are they giving this mandate? The Committee of the County Assembly, responsible for the ethics of members, is responsible commission for county executive committee members. Those are the CEC, MCAs themselves, and members of the secretary of its respective county public service board. No one has been given an opportunity to oversight governors. Governors are free to do whatever they want to do if this bill was to pass the way it is, Mr. Speaker. They have not been mentioned anywhere, even when it comes to the members of the committee, members of the county assemblies, Mr. Speaker. So I think once we get to the third reading, we'll be bringing such amendment, because actually the governors, they are the one who are exercising conflict of interest more than anybody, Mr. Speaker, because they're the CEO. And if you read the law in this country, no one is a CEO of a certain government other than governors. The president is not even a CEO of the country, but the governors are. They are the one who, through their committees or CCs, execute mandates, implement budgetary provisions and allocations directly, Mr. Speaker. So I think on the issue of governors, it should be here as a section by itself. The governors are the one who are not paying pending bills. The governors are the one who are convincing MCAs to pass budgetary allocations or budgets that are unrealistic so that they can commit county monies even without having it, Mr. Speaker. The other day, and I'm really happy that the president of this republic, President William Ruto, convened a sitting with all heads of parastatals and CEOs. And he told them, Mr. Speaker, you should not execute a budget or commit a budget of monies that you don't have, Mr. Speaker. If you don't have that amount, don't commit it. That is the way to go to fight pending bills. And this is what we need to do to the governors also, Mr. Speaker, because they are committing money. And once they commit, once they know they are going home, like in the case of Kiambu, Mr. Speaker, we have had 4 governors, Mr. Speaker. Once somebody realizes I cannot be re-elected, they commit monies to entities in the name of collecting bribes from contractors. The moment they commit money, they issue contracts, they get their bribes, then they are not voted for, they go home, then they leave the contractor asking for the next governor to pay their pending bills. The next governor will never pay. Because one, you did not have proper papers, probably you did not execute, probably you did not support that governor, Mr. Speaker. And this issue of pending bill will only end, Mr. Speaker, once we curtail, once we stop the governors from over-projecting a certain percentage of their revenues or of their own source revenue, Mr. Speaker. And that is to say, I have an amendment of PFM Act, Mr. Speaker, that will be coming to this House, and I'm asking and requesting the members of the Senate to support when it comes before the counties pass their budget, that you cannot over-project your own source revenue for the next financial year more than 20% of what you collected in the previous audited year, Mr. Speaker. Because if you do that, Mr. Speaker, you will only spend what you don't have. And if you spend what you don't have, you will never ever cure the issue of pending bill. And as I conclude, for you to get clarity on what I mean by this, Kiambu County has projected to collect 8 billion, Mr. Speaker, because it's 7.9 billion, 8 billion. And so far, they have only collected 1.6 billion, half within the year, the financial year. So meaning the next half of the financial year, they're going to collect another 1.6 billion. That will be 3.2 billion. If you minus 8 billion, 3.2 billion, that is a county that is gone short almost 5 billion. Yet they have committed that amount. And they have given contractors work worth 5 billion. They have pending bills of 5.7 billion. So by the end of this year, I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, the county government of Kiambu will have pending bills of 10 billion. For us to cure this, we have to support such kind of laws. We have to come up with such amendments. And as I support this conflict of interest bill, Mr. Speaker, agree and allow me when we get there to bring some amendments. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.